Hey team, welcome back. It is Patrick Robertson here at Momentous Building, and today we're going to talk about how to actually save properly and calculate the right amount of money you need to have to be able to afford your home. So this is an interesting topic because most of the time when we go to buy a new home, maybe it's our second home, maybe it's our primary residence, especially this is big for new homeowners that previously rented. A lot of times we just think about the P&I, the principal, interest, and then the mortgage, and that's it, right? If we can afford that, it's in our budget, maybe it's in that 30 to 50% of our total take-home income, we get approved for the loan, it works out, we're good to go. However, there is a lot more expenses out there than just your mortgage, than just the taxes and these different things, than just your water bill and utilities. And that has to be understood because your home isn't going to last forever unless you take care of the proper maintenance. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is making sure that when you buy your next home, have the amount of repairs needed, the capital expenses needed, to be able to make sure that when that in 5 years, 2 years, when the water heater burns out, you need new cabinets, your dishwasher fails, the money is there to take care of it, rather than running into emergency where you have to put things on debt and credit. Alright, so where do we start this whole thing and really coming down to a price that we can have in the bank account so that we can afford all these expenses? Well, we have to really start looking at our home when we buy it from a business standpoint, and that is the business of owning a home. And we're going to take a lot of great details and information from investors. Because when an investor looks at a home, they look at it from a business. Money in, money out, expenses, and what's my bottom line? Am I making money from this deal, or am I losing money? Now, as a homeowner, what does that mean? That means that when we look at that bottom line, we got to be able to make sure we can afford everything in there, along with everything else in our life, like our grocery bill, our car bill, saving up for vacations, investments for the future, these different things, right? And the common thing that is forgotten is the fact that in 15 years you're going to need a roof. Eventually you're going to need a new refrigerator. Eventually you're going to need to remodel that bathroom and the kitchen in 20 years, whatever it may be. It might be even sooner, right? The problem comes up is that it's so typical, we just wait until that comes up and we're like, let's hope the money's in the bank account, right? Because we don't plan forward for the future. But what an investor does, he knows that this is coming up because he has the long game in the mind, or she. So what they do is they take money out every single month and they put it into a savings account to make sure that the money is there when the new roof is needed or the new kitchen is needed. So there's two different types of expenses we have to account for. First, capital expenditures. That's like a new roof, a new kitchen, ripping out and gutting your bathroom because it's 30 years old, right? These big, large projects. Maybe it's new appliances, right? So we get the idea. Then the second one is repairs. And repairs is exactly what it sounds like. The stuff that breaks on your home. When the cabinet door falls off, when your toilet starts leaking, when, someone opens the door and they slam the doorknob right through the drywall and now there's a hole in your wall. Front door, fell off the hinges. These different things that your house breaks due to use in these different items, right? We don't always know what it's going to be, but we do know it's always going to be something. So, a typical investor, they usually budget around 10% for capital expenditures based on the monthly rent, right? Same thing with repairs, that might be in the 8 to 12% depending on how new or old the home is, right? If you're living in a very old home that's 50 years old and not updated, maybe you have to allocate 12% for capital expenditures and 15% repairs because there's going to be something every single year, or you have a big remodel coming up, right? So that's all things to keep in mind with some nuances. And why do we do this, right? Because as a contractor, for me, I see it all the time. That's like, hey, I need brand new windows, and I'm like, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, it's going to be $30,000. And from the homeowner standpoint, they weren't saving for the last 3, 4, 5 years for this. They're just hoping that the money's in the bank account because the windows are leaking and XYZ, it needs to get done. So what we can do with making sure that we save for repairs, we save for capital expenditures, and it is in our budget when we buy the home, we can look at this home from a 10-year perspective of, will I actually be able to afford this home? Will I be able to afford the new roof repair? Because the home will not last forever unless you maintain it. And all too often we drive down the road and we see those homes that are dilapidated, people are living in there, and it might not be by the owner's choice, but they can't afford the new bathroom reno, the new siding, and the new roof, right? So that's how a landlord does it. They had the future in mind. So how do we look at this from a homeowner? Well, let's make this really, really easy. If your property taxes mortgage is $2,500, you should save 10% on average for capital expenditures, and we'll just call it 10% for repairs, excuse me. And what does that mean? So every single month you're going to need an additional $250 for capital expenditures and an additional $250 a month for repairs. Now it could be more or less, right? But these are good numbers to just start with. And when you factor in that extra $500 a month, and it doesn't meet within your personal financial budget, or it's going to be very, very tight, now you have to start rethinking if you can actually afford this home. Because here's the other thing. Construction doesn't increase with the rate of inflation, sadly. Construction is actually, on average, getting more expensive at 6% per year, compounded yearly. So what does that mean? That means if your pay raise is 2 to 3% a year, sadly, the construction costs are going to go up more than that. They're going to go up on average 6%. So we have to actually think farther into the future. So if you sign a deal on your mortgage today, it's $2,500. Now we actually have to project into the future what the expenses are going to be the year after, and the year after. Because if we look at it compared to an investor, rents go up every year, every 2, every 3 years when they choose to raise it, right? So their capital expenditure budgets are going to go up. Now from a homeowner, we have to keep that in mind. We have to say, hey, listen, my mortgage is and insurance and taxes are $2,500 this year per month, $25 a month this year. Next year, I have to future plan that with the idea that my house is going to get more expensive to maintain. So if you do that, you can do a really simple future time value of money equation. This can be done in Excel. You can Google it. Present value money will give you tomorrow's dollars today. Future value of money will give tomorrow's dollars today. So there's some different mathematical equations, but basically it's a compounded interest equation to understand that every single year things are going to get anywhere between 4 to 6% more expensive. So I hope this really helps, because the goal of this video is to make sure that you don't buy a home that you can't necessarily afford. And quite frankly, when you do find that home that you can afford, everything is taken care of. Because when you need the new appliances, money's there. When you need the new roof, I knew this was going to happen, money is there. And that's exactly where we want to be at, so that way you guys as homeowners don't get into a pickle, and you can work with great contractors that'll take care of the work, and you don't have to cut values or do, half the work now, because that's all you can do. So I hope this really helps out. This is a really tricky one. We can go in depth. Please leave some comments below if you have any questions and your thoughts. Give us a like, share, and subscribe as we try to grow this message. And thank you so much for joining us here today.